thanks to the support as a channel member, Kieran Hodgkinson. Well, it was fun having Phil Foden while it lasted, but books needed balancing and the man was on £120,000 a week in the conference. So when Paris Saint-Germain offered £60 million just before deadline day, it was a no-brainer. Foden's gone. Very sad. We've even had our first game that we haven't won. It's all falling apart already. Hello and welcome to part 3 of Saving Man City. I'm Kevin. Coming up on today's episode, we have a couple of games for you. In the National League, we're away against Bromley. We're at home against York. Since you were last with me, we've continued doing pretty well. We've had a couple of big wins, a couple of narrow wins. I mean, one narrow win, narrowly beating Boreham Wood 1-0 away, and actually really struggled against Dagenham and Redbridge. I mean, to be fair, it was our first triple threat match coming up against both Dagenham and Redbridge at the same time. But we were... I mean, it's a 92nd minute equaliser. We just dragged ourselves over the finish line there to protect our unbeaten start. And that was with Phil Foden still in the team. As mentioned in the intro, he's now gone. He's the latest out of the door, the last of the original big names out of the door. Phil Foden is Paris Saint-Germain's new number 9 as part of a £60 million deal where he's got a goal and an assist and an 8.1 rating on his debut. So he seems to have settled straight in playing as well as he was playing for us, where he finished with 5 matches, 3 goals, 4 assists, 1 man of the match and an 8.02 playing in the National League. But Foden is no more. £60 million plus some add-ons as well means that we've actually got a decent little pile of cash for the time being. Obviously, we're not going to be able to spend any of the transfer budget because we're under a 3-year transfer embargo. And also that overall balance will disappear fast because we've got £23 million a month in loan repayments and still have a wage expenditure of about £1.3 million a month as well. So there's still players that need to move on. There's still some high salaries that need removing from the equation if we're going to be sustainable long term. I mean, in particular, I'm looking at this guy, Clive Aguilar, who hasn't played a game for us yet, isn't good enough. Probably our 3rd choice right back. He's on 20 grand a week. That's the kind of player we need shot of, probably. We'll worry about that a little bit further down the line. For now, we want to win another couple of football matches. With that first draw, we are still one of 4 unbeaten teams in the league, one of which is Eastleigh. We've only won 2 games as well. But with that draw, we find ourselves in 3rd place in the league. We've actually had a game postponed because of having so many players away on under 21 international duty. So that's why we've played 1 game fewer than everyone else around us. But with both Notts County and Chesterfield starting the season with 6 wins from 6, we need to carry on doing good football. So we're away against Bromley. No Phil Foden, which does mean Morgan Rogers, the goal scorer from the last game, comes into the team on the left-hand side. He's actually our backup striker as well, which means we currently don't have a backup striker. So if all goes wrong with Liam Delap, we have a big problem. But Rogers slots into the gap that has been left by Foden. Cole Palmer is nursing an injury as well, but we can't afford to lose both of our wingers at the same time. So this is the team to go away against Bromley. We've got Trafford in goal, a back 4 of Wilson, Esbrand, Doyle, Harwood, Bellis and Couto. The other Doyle at the base of the midfield, McAtee and Fiorini in central midfield. Rogers on the left, Palmer on the right and Delap up front. I guess James McAtee would be an option as a false 9. If we had something go on with Liam Delap. I mean, those of you who've been watching the channel for a long time, just imagine me trying to use a false 9 or some kind of strikerless system. If we run out of strikers, that's the thing. That's the big thing with this save, and it's not really hit us so far because we've only had to sell 1 player since the actual start of the save. Obviously, the whole squad has disappeared, but we've only had to sell 1 player, so we've kind of been able to stick to the plan so far. If we lose 3 or 4 players in the same position, for example, if we lose more wingers, because Palmer, despite being injured, is still looking like the best player we've got. He was outperforming Foden earlier on in the season anyway, and I mean, he's already scored 3 minutes into this match. So Cole Palmer, quite good. If he was to go as well, and we maybe lost another couple of wingers, we'd have to do a system that doesn't involve wingers because we can't bring players in. If we lose Liam Delap, our only striker, we're going to have to do something that doesn't involve strikers. We talked a little bit in yesterday's episode about the possibility of, if we run out of fullbacks, having to try something that doesn't involve any fullbacks. So there's going to be some tactical manipulation going on in this save as well, presumably, as the squad starts to thin and more of these players have to leave to balance the books. So And I know, I mean, I can already see the comment section in my brain. Oh, come on, Kev, doing the 4-3-3 again. It's all you ever do. Well, for a start, that's not true. People also moan that all I ever do is the 4-2-3-1 and all I ever do is the diamond. So I've got a few tricks up my sleeve, but we're just going to keep using a system that suits the players that we've got best. We've only got one striker, so our one striker system suits the squad. We've got a couple of decent options as a holding midfielder, so we're playing a system with a holding midfielder. We've got lots of wingers, so we're playing a system that involves wingers. We're not forcing this squad into a 4-3-3 because I like the 4-3-3. We're using the 4-3-3 because it works for the squad that we've got, but that won't necessarily always be the case. We're 3-0 up after 13 minutes. Who needs Phil Foden, eh? He might be showing off and doing fancy things with Paris Saint-Germain, but Cole Palmer is going to become a Manchester City legend. And I'm sure that's much more aligned with what Phil Foden would have wanted to achieve. I mean, imagine if we actually managed to keep hold of Palmer long term. Realistically, we're not going to be able to. Any of these players who are on 5-figure amounts each week, although theoretically we're still well within our wage budget. As things settle down over longer term, I can't imagine us being in League One, for example, with a £300,000 or £400,000 a week wage budget. These things will balance out over time as the financial situation continues to get worse because of those loan repayments. So it's going to become the case that even if Palmer wanted to stay, and even if we didn't get any big offers for him, there's going to come a point where we just can't afford his £20,000 a week salary. I mean, you could argue we're already at that point now based on how bad the finances are, but theoretically it still fits within budgets at the moment because the budgets haven't quite caught up with what's going on with the rest of the club. But so for now, we'll enjoy him, knowing full well he's probably not going to be here long term as part of the project because he starts on too much money. And that's the thing with these. We've kind of got to build the team around these players who are on the £3,000 to £5,000 a week salaries. So the ones that might not even be in the team right now are likely to be the ones who we're building around longer term, plus new gens as they come through the youth setup. We don't know how good they're going to be, but we're going to be relying on some of those as well. And these more established names on £10,000 a week plus, unless they're willing to take significant pay cuts when it comes time for contract renewal, will either need to be sold to balance the books or we just won't be able to afford to renew their contracts and we'll let them go for free, which seems madness. That is a situation we might actually end up in. Who knows? 4-0 though, half an hour gone. Things are going very well today, and we are camped out on the edge of the Bromley penalty area again. Although, as I say that, they win the ball back from us and look to get a counter-attack up and running. And they've cut straight through the middle of us here. Trafford, though, is able to make himself big and make the save. Remains 4-0, although Bromley have got a corner. It's interesting to see as well that the Bromley Stadium isn't completely sold out. There are gaps in this stadium. I was wondering what kind of impact having a team like Manchester City would have on this level in general. Would it be a big boost to attendances every match that we're involved in? I will assume, and we can check after the game, I will assume this is going to be Bromley's biggest attendance of the season. But it's not a sellout, is it? Our end is completely sold out, as you can see. But the Bromley fans don't seem as taken with the idea of getting an absolute pasting by Manchester City's former youth team as you would imagine maybe they might be. So, I don't know. Maybe we're not that appealing to the rest of the division. Notts County and Chesterfield, by the way, both winning again by the looks of it. So, this league table, not doing us any favours at the moment. We'll have all seen from real life this season with the shenanigans between Wrexham and Notts County down there, just how hard this league is to get out of as well. Yes, we're Manchester City. Yes, you would expect us to win almost all of our games and do very well. But if Notts County, as an example, do the same thing, we could be the Notts County of this scenario and find ourselves getting 100+ points and not going up automatically. And then it's the lottery of the playoffs. So we do need to make sure that we're not letting these couple of rascals who are having excellent starts to the season establish themselves longer term. We need to finish top of this league. We do not want to be relying on playoffs. I don't like playoffs, and playoffs don't like me. That being said, I am a Peterborough fan, and it's the playoffs in real life tomorrow night. If you're watching this video when it first comes out, we're 4-0 up against Sheffield Wednesday, from the first leg. And touch wood, don't balls it up from there. If you're watching this in the future, obviously you'll know if the balls up happened. 4-1 then. Bromley have got themselves a goal back. It looks like Chesterfield are now only drawing. Dagenham have equalised against Southend. That's not a match I'm as interested in. I want to know what's going on with Chesterfield. Goodness me. Bromley have scored a second, and that's an absolute stunning goal. That's goal of the game so far. Where's that come from? This side aren't supposed to be any good. They're not supposed to be able to do this. Once again, question marks over James Trafford. He's going to have to be any good in goal for us long term, so we've not got anybody better. But you shouldn't be getting beaten from there, young man. If we've got a 16, 17-year-old goalkeeper about to come through the youth team this season, he'll be fancying his chances looking at what James Trafford has just done there. 4-2 now. It's actually Notts County who are not winning. Chesterfield are top of the league with 7 wins from 7 so far. Right, Tommy Doyle is going to come off for Rico Lewis. Cole Palmer, who was recovering from injury. Oscar Bobb can come on for him, who is a left footer who can play on that right-hand side. So that's an easy change to make as well. It was kind of a touch and go whether or not Palmer would play or whether we'd go with Bob anyway. So it'd be interesting to see if Bob is any good, because we might use him from the start in today's second match if Palmer is not good to go. And for the final change, I think we'll take off Callum Doyle, bring on Big Finley Burns to just secure things up at the back and make sure we don't let Bromley back into this. We had such a good start to this game, 4-0 up after 26 minutes. It's all ended a little bit tighter than I would have liked, although it has still been fairly comfortable. And both Notts County and Chesterfield have ended up winning. They're both on 7 wins from 7. So despite having an unbeaten start of our own and another solid win there, we are 5 points adrift at the top of the table. It'll be fine. It had better be fine. Ignore the fact that all of my players are apparently resting. I ballsed that up somehow. I'm not quite sure why everyone is still resting from training 3 days after the match. I'm pretty sure I only sent them on 1 day's worth of rest from training, and they're all still being rested for 1 day, 3 days later. It'll be fine. But we are going with the same team as the previous game. Cole Palmer. I'm gonna just decide he's fit enough to play after all of this rest that he's apparently going to be getting. So we're going to stick with the same 11 that looked so good in the first half of the previous game. Obviously, less so in that second half when we let Bromley back in. But York have had a troubled start to the season. They're down in a relegation battle. So fingers crossed, we should be able to deal with them relatively easily, you would hope. Although, to be fair, they've got more points than Dagenham and Redbridge, and they were a real problem for us a couple of matches ago. So we take nothing for granted. It seems to be that every now and again we have a team that can just kind of, I guess, bully our young superstars out of the match. But we're not going to let that happen today. Liam Delap, big guy up front. He'll bully their defenders right back. Cross comes in. It's that guy, Cole Palmer, is involved again, and it's Wilson Esbrand with the cross. And Delap is there, leaping above 2 York defenders to nod it past the goalkeeper to make it 1-0. And this is... Why have we got League One showing? Hold on. What have we got? Right. I can't look at that screen at the moment. I was trying to see if Chesterfield and Notts County are playing, or if we've got an opportunity to break into the top of this league a little bit more. But apparently I've got League One fixtures showing on there at the moment for some reason. So we'll check on that next time we're in between highlights. It's Palmer with the in-swinger. It's headed clear to the guy hovering on the edge of the area. Now we will put our fixtures back on here. So they are both playing and are currently both drawing. So as it stands at the moment, we're 3 points behind them with a game in hand and a better goal difference. So this is exactly what we need. We need those two to pick up draws. Obviously, we've got that 1 draw on our record from the game against Dagenham previously. Cole Palmer then on the right-hand side. Looks like he's wearing gloves in September, which is an interesting choice. Your hands can't be that cold in September. Goodness me. Fiorini with the ball forward, and Rogers is in behind, and he can't get his 3rd consecutive goal with the ball going just wide of that post. We've got a throw in on the far side there. Couto gives it to McAtee, whose cross comes in for Delap again, and Liam Delap with another towering header, beautifully placed as well, grabs his 5th goal of the season. And Liam Delap has been a slightly slower starter with some of the stars around him. It's taken Delap a couple of matches to get up to speed as a real threat, but 5 goals now in our first 7 matches, including these 2 today. And Liam Delap is starting to look like the 30-goal-a-season striker I was pretty sure we had when I realised he was knocking around as part of this Manchester City youth setup. I will emphasise again, though, we don't have any other strikers, so if he wasn't going to be any good, we don't really have a plan B. That's a weird pass out to Couto on the right-hand side. Ball comes in, looking for Delap again. I think it's actually Rodgers who gets under it, and now the York defender looks to bring it clear, but all he's doing is lumping it forward, and Doyle will deal with that kind of thing all day long. Plays it back to Harwood, Bellis, and now Fiorini to McAtee in midfield. Ball over the top, looking for Delap, who is on a hat-trick, remember? And there is Liam Delap's hat-trick. Hopefully, the first of many of the series for Liam Delap. Our number 9 has just scored. I mean, that one's an absolute beauty. The first 2 were just headers, strikers' goals. This one is the mark of a player who is too good for this league. And we know a few of these boys are, and he's definitely one of them, but that was a real demonstration of it there, with a lovely, lovely finish from Liam Delap. Doyle now with the in-swinger. Palmer is there. His header goes just over, and there was some kind of change at the top of the table. Oh, there wasn't. I'm sure I saw something happen there. There you go. Chesterfield are losing, I think. Chesterfield are losing at home against Halifax. That is significant. Of course, we haven't lost yet. Notts County haven't lost yet. Chesterfield haven't lost yet. But this is a big deal. So throw in on the far side with Wilson Esbrand. Still don't know how to say that guy's name. We're just going to have to change it to Wilson. And there's going to be a side of his family that gets pretty upset about it, I imagine. But York have won the ball back in central midfield here and are now trying to move down our left-hand side. Who is our number 8? Of course, it's Cole Palmer. I don't even know why he's over that side of the pitch. He's our right winger. He's over there defending on the left-hand side. And he does a good job of that as well. He's a superstar. Fiorini, ball forward to Morgan Rodgers. And there is number 4, both for us today and for him this season. I think that's 4 consecutive games Morgan Rodgers has scored in now. He is in quite good form. And I will say again, who needs Phil Foden? Because this guy has just jumped in the team and he's performing as well as Foden was. So, I presumably we can sell this guy for £60 million as well now. That's how this works, right? I imagine Foden will forever be the most expensive player in conference history. Once, that was George Boyd many years ago, the greatest player to ever play for Peterborough United. Little bit of football trivia for you there. I think Jamie Vardy a couple of years later kind of... Did you know he used to play in non-league? He did end up going for a little bit more than the £250,000 Posh paid Stevenage for George Boyd. I think it was about £1 million that Leicester paid Fleetwood for Vardy. Although, we're getting into non-league trivia, getting fully into the weeds now. Were Fleetwood in League 2 when had they been promoted when they actually sold Vardy? Let me know down in the comments section. Meanwhile, 4-0 up. I think both Notts County and Chesterfield are now losing. Today couldn't be going any better. Altrincham are beating Notts County. Halifax are comfortably beating Chesterfield. And the door is being opened for us to squeeze ourselves through towards the top of the table, which is where we should be by tomorrow's episode, you would think. I did mention we'd be doing this as well. We are going to get some matches under our belt before tomorrow. Obviously, this one we've come back quite soon after the previous episode to discuss the Phil Foden situation and see what kind of impact it's had on us. We are now going to get a big bunch of matches played now, especially if we're winning them all as significantly as we are this one. I think I said it in yesterday's episode. You don't need to see us win 4 or 5-0 over 8 or 10 episodes this season. We'll get this season done in 4 or 5 episodes if it's a foregone conclusion that we're going to get promoted, and we'll get into the real meat of what happens next in terms of the finances and all that kind of stuff at the club. Rico Lewis can come on as the final substitution. I think the biggest surprise I've got in this squad so far is not being able to find a space in my starting 11 for Rico Lewis, one of the few players who I recognise from this Manchester City setup from real life. Obviously, there's a lot of players who anyone who plays non-league Football Manager will recognise a lot of these names as players who get released. Rico Lewis is one of those who doesn't get released and plays for Manchester City in real life. And it's a little bit of a surprise that I can't fit him in anywhere. Maybe he'll end up at left back. Maybe he'll end up right back, defensive midfield. Who knows? Obviously, there'll be players who are sold eventually. He might even be one of them. But at the moment, he's got to make do with a spot on the bench. And Liam Delap does a lovely hat-trick. Right, we're the only unbeaten team left in the league now. We're not. Notts County did manage to salvage a draw. In fact, Notts County won. They turned that around and actually won their match. So Notts County have won 8 from 8. But Chesterfield have now picked up their first defeat. So when we win our game in hand, which presumably we will, this game against Oldham on Friday night, we've got to play Friday and Saturday. No, we haven't. Okay. That's all right then. We'll be battling it out with Notts County. In this universe, Wrexham are rubbish. Non-league football rejoices. If you've enjoyed that, please make sure you leave a nice big thumbs up on there for me. Subscribe to the channel for daily Football Manager videos. And thank you very much for watching.